So one of the big news in the gaming landscape this week is the fact that Anthem's entire roadmap got delayed, which is not ideal given the rather poor state the game's currently in right now. This is not the news we needed to hear. BioWare did release one new stronghold, which is something, but there was a bunch of other stuff that was supposed to be out before the end of April that completely got pushed back. And then there's the Cataclysm that was supposed to release in May. That got pushed back as well. And the Cataclysm was supposed to be essentially the next big expansion for Anthem, what pushed the game to the next phase. We don't know when that's coming out now. While a lot of this stuff didn't come as a surprise, given that we were deep into April and BioWare was completely quiet about all these different features they promised, it still doesn't change the fact that this all kind of stings, especially given that they haven't provided a new release window for all the delayed content. They've just sort of said, we'll get it out eventually. Right now we're working on fixing the fundamental issues with the game. So there's just no road ahead right now. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Without a timetable, a lot of people are worried that not even BioWare really knows where Anthem is all headed, that it's so broken fundamentally that it can't really be fixed. It feels like BioWare's taking too long just fixing the simplest things even. Loot in particular is still shit. It is the biggest issue the game has going for it right now. All BioWare has to do is bolster the rate at which legendary items drop, but they haven't done anything about that. And without proper loot, it doesn't matter if you add a new stronghold, there is no incentive to play new content because the rewards just don't justify the time you put into them. There's no sense of progression. So yeah, with all this going on, the general sentiments right now is that the game is running on fumes, that the game is doomed to die. And even for those wishing this weren't the case, for those who want to see Anthem get better, the thing is, there are plenty of signs out there right now showing this downwards trend, that this game is slowly but surely dying. There's this article that website Forbes recently released titled "Anthem's Waning player base is starting to create matchmaking problems." When a live service can no longer find enough players to support its activities, you know there's something off going on here. You know the game's in trouble. Something this Forbes article highlighted was how difficulty is currently broken in the game. Many of you will probably know by now that once you reach Anthem's endgame, the whole point is to start playing on what's called Grandmaster difficulty. And there are 3 of these. There's Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3, each obviously subsequently more difficult than the last. Now, the problem with the way difficulty currently works in Anthem's endgame is the fact that the rewards don't scale appropriately to how much more difficult each Grandmaster difficulty gets. So the result is that it's actually more efficient to just keep replaying Grandmaster 1 difficulty than it is to tackle Grandmaster 2 or 3. So as an example, this Forbes article noted that it takes between 30 to 40 minutes to just kill the boss in the newly introduced stronghold from the April 23rd patch. And this is of course at Grandmaster level 3. But if you were to tackle the same stronghold at Grandmaster 1, you could run through the entire stronghold, boss included, twice or thrice within that same time period. And the thing about Grandmaster 2 and Grandmaster 3 is that they don't yield any unique rewards or anything like that. They yield the same legendaries and masterworks as you'd get if you were to play Grandmaster 1. And while individual runs at higher difficulty might have a chance to yield more legendaries and masterworks, the fact remains that it's just more efficient to keep playing Grandmaster 1 over and over again because it's so much faster to do a Grandmaster 1 run than it is to do Grandmaster 2 or 3. A lot of people figure this out pretty quickly, so basically very few people play Grandmaster 2 or 3 at this point. And according to the Forbes article, as a result, in these difficulty modes, GM2 and GM3, players are having a lot of trouble finding other players to tackle strongholds and missions with. And it's not just Forbes talking about this. If you go to the Anthem subreddit, you'll find users reporting similar issues. For example, we've got this post right here with 2,400 upvotes sharing their experience via the following statement. Anthem is becoming a ghost town on PlayStation 4. Logged in Friday night, queued up a GM2 legendary contract and started in with no other players. Nobody joined, had to solo solo the whole mission. That has never happened to me before. I have a 746 storm, so I did okay, but was floored that nobody else joined in. Pretty much have to join quick play and go down to GM1 to get full groups. None of my PSN friends are playing anymore. One sent me a message saying the game spun up his PS4 so bad it overheated and crashed since the last patch. This Reddit is bleeding members too. Not optimistic for Anthem. Of course, it's most cost-effective for EA BioWare if they can take the servers offline. They got our $60 plus. Paying for update, development, and maintenance costs on the server farm just eats into their profits. Why bother? Now, it's not just GM2 and GM3. GM1 difficulty also has its fair share of issues, namely that there is a couple of activities you can undertake, but there's only one that's really worth doing over and over and over again. That one activity is this stronghold called Heart of Rage, which, by the way, is the last mission in the Anthem campaign, recycled. But yeah, doing Heart of Rage at Grandmaster Difficulty 1 is currently the best way to farm Masterworks and Legendaries. And with the way the game works right now, every other loot out there in the game is completely worthless. The only thing worth pursuing right now are more Legendaries. So for example, you could pursue crafting materials in this game, except that crafting materials just don't mean anything. They're pointless because the crafting system that's currently implemented in this game is completely useless. There's no reason to explore that in any way, shape, or form. So what this means is that there is absolutely no purpose or reason to do anything else in this game other than repeat Heart of Rage at GM1 over and over again. Doing anything else is inefficient. It's just a waste of time. And so other difficulties and other activities have no players in them. Now, the Forbes article did point out that there are other looter shooters out there who have experienced similar matchmaking issues for certain activities featured in the game. Forbes mentioned that The Division, for example, there were certain activities where you might occasionally not be able to find players. But the key difference between Anthem and The Division is that whereas Division spreads its players across a much wider spectrum of activities and content, Anthem only has a handful of activities players can currently partake in. Based on Forbes' article, the estimate is that Anthem has maybe 20% of the content that Division does. And yet, despite having much fewer activities to spread players across, Anthem is experiencing severe matchmaking issues. This likely suggests that the player base has dwindled significantly and that there are so few players out there right now that the game is now having a lot of trouble filling in players for the few activities that it does have. While matchmaking issues are nothing new to Anthem because of how poorly difficulty is scaled, it seems as though the issue now is worse than ever. Reddit users are noting that they literally just can't find anyone now, whereas before they could at least find a couple players here and there. And if all of this wasn't enough to showcase waning interest, in my last video I pointed out how Twitch viewership is at an all-time low currently. When I checked yesterday, the viewership numbers were hovering at like 250, and then when I checked today, the viewership numbers were at 280. So numbers on Anthem seem to be somewhere between 250 and 300, which is an abysmal performance for such a young live service made by a studio as well known as BioWare and a publisher with as many marketing resources as EA. More and more we're seeing that people just don't give a damn about Anthem anymore, that they don't have the patience for this shit, that people have given up. This goes doubly true now that the roadmap has been delayed, now that the Cataclysm is sort of up in the air, no release window or date. There's just no reason for players to tune into this game anymore. There's no future or path to follow now. More people might be willing to stick around if BioWare at least implemented some short-term solutions, like bolstering the loot drop rate. But BioWare just keeps saying they're working on it while doing nothing about it, despite feedback being unanimous surrounding what they should do right now, which is to increase legendary drops. Funny enough, people got a glimpse of this short-term solution when BioWare accidentally introduced a bug that bolstered loot drop rates dramatically for both Masterworks and Legendaries. And what's crazy is how fast BioWare managed to patch that out. BioWare seems to be on point when it comes to patching out bugs that make the game more fun, while tangible issues, it takes them just days or weeks to resolve. As one Reddit user put it, quote, "Isn't it sad that the fastest thing BioWare has ever fixed has been the loot bug? I'm just saying, they are content to let their weapons and components display incorrect values for weeks on end, but someone getting more loot than they're supposed to, gotta fix that shit stat." Yeah, I mean, they're not wrong. BioWare's priorities seem to be completely misplaced right now. and there's just a complete lack of organization behind the scenes. The roadmap has now crumbled to dust. The backlog of issues and problems continues to mount like an ever-growing snowball. And this is all pure chaos. It's gotten to a point where even the most ardent, loyal, and stubborn of Anthem fans are beginning to see the writing on the wall. And now we're learning that matchmaking issues are getting worse and worse because of a decreasing player base. We are learning that the Twitch viewership is just awful right now. Nobody wants to watch this game. And with every passing day, the game is just, it's looking more and more like a failed dead life service. It's looking more like its condition is terminal. And BioWare has nobody else to blame but themselves. Obviously, the troubled development is no secret now, with all the mismanagement, the lack of vision, the poor working conditions, the in-office politics, the issues with Frostbite, etc., marring this game at launch. And here's the thing, it is a miracle that given the troubled development, given the way this game was developed, they even managed to get some kind of game out. The fact that Anthem released in a playable state is a miracle in my opinion. But after that point, it was up to BioWare to keep at it, to keep releasing updates, to be communicative. But it's just, you can get the sense that they're giving up. You can feel the morale waning. You can feel them kind of deeming this as a lost cause as more days go by. There is less frequency of updates, there is less communication, there is less players every day. This is all just the signs of a game that's slowly decaying. Anyway, with that, I would like to end this news update and discussion video. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below what your take is on this whole situation, what you think about the matchmaking issues, and what it all means for the future of Anthem. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.